On the night of May 14, 2008, Brandon Swanson, a 19-year-old from Marshall, Minnesota, set out for a routine drive home from a friend's house in the small town of Lind. What started as an ordinary evening for Brandon quickly turned into a chilling mystery that continues to haunt investigators and his family to this day. Just before midnight, Brandon called his parents to let them know he had gotten his car stuck in a ditch. He was only a few miles from home, and he assured them that he was fine and would walk to a nearby farmhouse for help. But as the hours ticked by, Brandon never made it to safety, and his disappearance has puzzled authorities and intrigued the public ever since. Despite extensive searches and numerous theories, the true fate of Brandon Swanson remains dark. What really happened to Brandon Swanson on that fateful night? Welcome to Bad Things. In this episode, we'll delve into the timeline of events, explore the major theories, and analyze what most likely happened to Brandon Swanson. Brandon Swanson was born on March 17, 1989, in Marshall, Minnesota, to parents Brian and Annette Swanson. Growing up in the tight-knit community of Marshall, Brandon was known for his friendliness and closeness with his family and friends. He was a bright young man, well-liked by those who knew him. On the evening of May 13, 2008, Brandon's life took an unexpected and troubling turn. Brandon had spent the evening with friends in Lind, a small town approximately 30 miles southwest of Marshall. The night had been filled with fun and laughter, and Brandon decided it was time to head home. Around midnight, he left his friend's house, expecting a straightforward drive back to Marshall. Little did he know, this would be the beginning of a harrowing story. At approximately 1:54 a.m. on May 14th, Brandon's parents received a call from Brandon. He told them he had gotten stuck in a ditch on a back road that ran north of Highway 68, the main road he would normally take to get home. He told them he was not injured, but needed help as the car was stuck. Why Brandon chose to turn off Highway 68 and take gravel back roads home remains a mystery. Annette and Brian Swanson got in their pickup truck and drove to Brandon's supposed location, keeping him on the phone. When they arrived at the location, neither Brandon nor his car was there. Brian began flashing the lights of his pickup truck and instructed Brandon to do the same. Neither party was able to see the other's flashing lights, and because of mounting frustration, an argument started. Brandon hung up on his mother, and when she called him back to apologize, he told his parents he was walking to Lind and would wait for them at his friend's home. Brian then drove Annette back home to Marshall so she could go to bed, and then drove back towards Lind to pick up his son. Once again, Brian remained on the line with Brandon, who was walking towards town. This call began at 2:23 a.m. and would be the last contact between father and son. During the conversation, Brandon described his surroundings to his father, at one point stating he was walking along a fence line and could see the lights of town in the distance. At 3:10 a.m., Brandon shouted, "Oh shit," and the call ended abruptly. Brian attempted to call his son back several times, but Brandon never answered again. The Swansons then contacted Brandon's friends, and they searched the surrounding rural areas for any signs of Brandon. The early morning search turned up nothing, and at 6:30 a.m. on May 14th, Annette Swanson contacted the Lyon County Sheriff's Department for assistance. Initially, the authorities were reluctant to search because Brandon was legally an adult, and they pointed out that it was not unusual for a 19-year-old to stay out all night. The authorities joined the search later that morning after realizing the seriousness of the situation. On the afternoon of May 14th, authorities located Brandon's Chevy Lumina by tracing his cell phone calls to a tower northwest of Marshall. Brandon's vehicle was found in a rural area on the side of a field approach near the Lyon and Lincoln County lines, about 1.5 miles north of Highway 68. Lyon County Sheriff Jeff Vizecki described the car as being on sort of a sharp incline, nothing major but enough that the car would get hung up so the wheels are too high off the ground to get any traction. Brandon's vehicle was located approximately 25 miles from Lind, the town he erroneously thought he was outside of. Instead, Brandon was in the outskirts of the small towns Taunton and Porter, Minnesota, located about 20 miles northwest of Marshall. Lind is about 10 miles south of Marshall. No alcohol or illegal drugs were found in the vehicle. Nothing unusual was found in or around the vehicle. There was no significant trace evidence, no signs of blood, and no indication of a struggle. Unfortunately, authorities were unable to find footprints to indicate in which direction Brandon walked on foot. After Brandon's car was located, the Lyon County Sheriff's Department sought the help of search dogs. The dogs led authorities to the banks of the Yellow Medicine River, which at the time of the disappearance was high and flowing fast. The Yellow Medicine River is knee-deep in some areas and up to 15 feet deep in others. Because it was assumed Brandon had fallen into the river, the search focused around the Yellow Medicine River and the surrounding area. In the early weeks of the search in May and June 2008, land and air searches were conducted both by community volunteers and individuals from professional search organizations, but with no luck. Numerous searches have been conducted since then, primarily relying on the time and effort of local volunteers. The most recent major search effort was conducted August 7th to 8th, 2010. Current searches are focusing on a specific area of Mud Creek, which is also located in a vicinity where Brandon's car was found. The focus of the search moved to this area after bloodhounds led searches there in March 2010. The professional search manager on the case, Jeff Haas, who writes the blog titled The Search for Brandon Swanson, updates the blog with information on the search and believes Brandon's remains will be found in time. Cadaver dogs have indicated a scent in the area, which is evidence enough, Haas stated, for the search to continue. The blog's last entry from May 12th to 15th, 2011 mentioned, the plan for the May 12th to 14th searches was to detail, search by HRD K9, as many fields as possible in the area surrounding Mud Creek. This means walking in 15 to 20-foot sections, which takes a lot of energy and time. Unfortunately, the rain in the area received a week prior to the search made the creek's water level high, and the fields very muddy. Some progress was made, but not as much as hoped for. So what actually happened to Brandon? That's a great question, but the truth is, no one really knows for sure. However, there are a few theories out there that attempt to explain what might have happened to him. Brandon's disappearance is highly unlikely to have been planned, as there's no evidence suggesting he intended to vanish. Orchestrating one's own disappearance and relocation requires a high level of sophistication, and it's been nearly 13 years since Brandon went missing without detection. This makes such a scenario even more improbable. Additionally, Brandon was on the phone with his father, trying to walk to a location where his father could pick him up. Behavior that doesn't align with someone staging their own disappearance. Some think it was just a mental breakdown. This does not seem like a plausible cause of Brandon's disappearance, although it cannot be ruled out entirely. Family and friends indicated that Brandon had always been a high-functioning and emotionally stable individual, and for his whereabouts not to be discovered for nearly 13 years makes the mental breakdown explanation highly unlikely. Could it have been an accident? Authorities immediately assumed that Brandon had fallen into the Yellow Medicine River. After 2 years and numerous searches of the river, it is highly implausible Brandon drowned in the river, because his body likely would have surfaced by now. The present search is now focusing on another body of water in the area, Mud Creek. The same argument holds true for Mud Creek, so it would be a mistake to focus all of the search efforts on that location. It is also not likely Brandon drowned because it was reported that until May 16, 2008, Brandon's cell phone remained turned on. His phone was thought to have been on for 2 days after his disappearance. This is because every call made to the phone after his disappearance resulted in several rings and a voicemail recording. If Brandon drowned, it is unlikely he would have hung up the phone. It is possible that he accidentally hung up the phone while falling into the river, but this theory remains speculative. Brandon's disappearance could be attributed to foul play, as the less populated area around his vehicle may have been the scene of a crime. However, no credible suspects have been identified, and no evidence supports this theory, suggesting that someone knew or was watching him. It is challenging to pinpoint what most likely happened to Brandon, given the multiple theories and the lack of concrete evidence. The predominant theory remains that Brandon became disoriented and lost, possibly due to the time of night and his frustration over the situation. His last phone call, with its sudden shout and sudden stop, makes people wonder what might have happened. It's possible that Brandon experienced an unexpected encounter or an accident, leading to his disappearance. Over the years, various theories have emerged, but none offer a clear answer. Some believe Brandon may have fallen into the nearby Yellow Medicine River, as he thought he was walking in that direction. The rough terrain around the river could have been challenging to navigate, especially in the dark. Others suspect foul play, but no solid evidence has surfaced to support any of these theories. This lack of clarity keeps the case shrouded in mystery, perplexing both investigators and the public, making Brandon's disappearance one of the most troubling unsolved mysteries in recent memory. The disappearance of Brandon Swanson still fascinates and confuses those who follow his story. Even after extensive searches, countless theories, and significant media attention, we are no closer to knowing the truth. His story is a haunting example of how challenging it can be to solve such complex and confusing cases, especially when critical pieces of the puzzle remain missing. One possibility that has not been fully explored is whether Brandon might have encountered wildlife or an unexpected natural hazard, which could have led to his sudden disappearance. Given the rural landscape where he was last known to be, it's imaginable that he could have fallen or become trapped in a way that search teams might have easily overlooked. This adds another layer of complexity to an already confused mystery, showing how even the most routine situations can turn tragic in an instant. Based on the available theories and popular opinion, the most likely scenario is that Brandon Swanson became disoriented after leaving his car and accidentally fell into the Yellow Medicine River while trying to find his way home. The rough ground in the area, combined with the darkness and his frustration, may have caused him to slip and fall into the river. If this happened, the strong current could have quickly carried him away, making it difficult to locate him despite extensive searches. While this theory fits with the clues we have, without more evidence, Brandon's fate remains a mystery. As the search for answers continues, Brandon's case serves as a reminder that some mysteries take years, if not decades, to unravel, if they ever do. It's a chilling thought that, despite all our efforts, some questions may remain unanswered. What do you believe happened to Brandon Swanson? Do you agree with our thoughts, or do you have your own theory? Share your ideas in the comments below. If you found this video engaging, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into some of the world's most intriguing mysteries. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Things. If you love our content and want to support the channel, feel free to check our web shop where you can find exclusive true crime merch, brought to you by Bad Things.